The cognitive approach to understanding oneself focuses on how our ideas, thoughts, and mental processes influence who we are. In this perspective, people construct their self-concept by organizing and interpreting the information they obtain. From this perspective, the self can be determined through different processes such as self-reflection, memory, and social comparison. This perspective views the self as not static but a continuous mental construction shaped by experiences and cognitive processes. How we think and evaluate ourselves provides insight into the nature of our identity. William James. He was known as the father of psychology for helping psychology become a formal discipline. William James claimed that people have genetically inherited individual tendencies, or instincts. Consciousness to James refers to an individual's awareness of his or her thoughts, including sensations, feelings, and memories. William James believed that consciousness is not a separate entity, but a function of particular experiences. He developed his ideas by observing people's behavior, examining how individuals perceive themselves and how they feel and act in different social contexts. He focused on psychology and introspection, which made him conclude that the self is a dynamic and multi-layered concept rather than a single unified core. For James, the self is fluid, adaptable, and rooted in personal introspection and social interaction. His view on the self presented the idea of a fragmented self, showing that identity is not fixed but shaped by a combination of inner beliefs, social roles, physical possessions, and continuous awareness. Chaffee 2013, Stevenson 2002, Cohen 2010. Moreover, James also introduced the concepts of I-self and me-self from his work The Principles of Psychology, published in 1890, which distinguishes the nature of personal identity. I-self, also known as the pure ego, refers to the ongoing sense of self that experiences life. It is our part of self that feels continuously across different events in life. The self is being viewed as the knower. Me-self, which refers to aspects of the self that can be observed and reflected upon, is categorized into four. These four categories that James explains self as a multi-layered concept. The material self. This includes our body possessions and anything we consider part of our identity, like clothing or personal space. James believed these physical and tangible aspects are deeply tied to self-perception. The social self. James argued that we have multiple social selves shaped by the different roles we play in social relationships. This aspect of the self changes based on who we're with, like friends, family, or colleagues, and how we want to be seen. The spiritual self. This is our inner self, composed of our beliefs, values, and inner thoughts. The spiritual self reflects our deepest sense of purpose and personal meaning. The pure ego. This is the sense of continuity and identity over time, the feeling that ties together past and present experiences to form a cohesive I. For James, these layers build a complex yet multidimensional self rather than a single unchanging core. Understanding the self is a cornerstone of psychology, with theories spanning from universal frameworks to individualized approaches. On the one hand, global models highlight shared traits, needs, and developmental patterns that unify human experiences, offering a universal lens to explore personality. On the other hand, differentiated models emphasize individuals' uniqueness, focusing on how personal history, culture, and environment shape the self. These perspectives provide complementary insights into what it means to be human, balancing commonality with individuality. Global models of the self. Global models focus on universal principles of human behavior and personality. They explore traits, needs, or psychological stages common to all people, aiming to create generalizable theories that explain shared human experiences. Examples of global models. Freud's psychoanalysis. Freud's theory emphasizes three universal components of the psyche: the ID, which deals with instinctual desires, the ego, which is responsible for rational decision-making, and the superego, our moral conscience. He proposed that all individuals go through psychosexual stages of development: oral, anal, phallic, latency, and genital. These stages shape personality based on how conflicts at each stage are resolved. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Maslow's theory provides a universal progression of human motivation. It begins with physiological needs, such as food and water, and advances towards safety, love and belongingness, esteem, and ultimately, self-actualization. Whereas, each level must be satisfied before moving to the next, making it a predictable sequence applicable to all individuals. The top of the hierarchy, which is self-actualization, reflects the universal human desire to realize personal potential and achieve meaningful goals. The five-factor model, or FFM, identifies 5 universal personality traits: openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. These traits are considered biologically rooted and relatively stable across cultures, ages, and genders. For example, someone high in extroversion will exhibit sociability and enthusiasm, universally observed in diverse populations. Differentiated models focus on individuality and how personal experiences, cultural contexts, and social environments shape personality. These theories reject a one-size-fits-all approach and emphasize variability. Adler's individual psychology. Adler's theory focuses on the unique motivations behind an individual's behavior, focusing on the drive to overcome feelings of inferiority and strive for superiority or success. Unlike Freud, Adler emphasized the importance of social interest, contributing to society, as a key aspect of healthy development. He believed that each person develops a unique style of life, shaped by their interpretation of personal experiences, resulting in a highly individualized approach. Bandura's social cognitive theory. Bandura's theory explains personality through reciprocal determinism, where behavior, environment, and personal cognition influence each other dynamically. A key concept is self-efficacy, the belief in one's ability to succeed in specific tasks, which varies significantly between individuals and contexts. For instance, a child confident in math might still struggle with public speaking, illustrating how personal experiences and situational factors shape personality. Jung's analytical psychology. While Jung acknowledged shared universal archetypes like the shadow, anima, and animus, his theory also focused on the individuation process, the journey of integrating these archetypes with the personal unconscious to form a cohesive self. This process is unique for each individual, influenced by their culture, personal history, and symbolic interpretation of their unconscious. Jung emphasized that differentiation leads to a unique expression of the self, tailored to the individual's experiences. Multiple selves versus unified self. The self is a challenging idea in psychology. Several theories have explored and tried to explain whether it is unified or composed of multiple facets. The unified self views personality as consistent and cohesive, integrating all thoughts and behaviors toward a singular purpose. In contrast, the multiple selves perspective highlights the diverse, context-driven aspects of identity that adapt to different situations and relationships. Unified self. The unified self viewed the self as cohesive and consistent, whereas all aspects of a person's thoughts, feelings, and behaviors align toward a single encompassing goal. Alfred Adler, a prominent figure in psychology, argued that personality operates as a unified and self-consistent system driven by a final purpose or aim. He suggested that even seemingly inconsistent behaviors make sense when viewed in the context of this unified goal. For example, Adler noted that conscious and unconscious thoughts are not opposing forces but complementary parts of a system working harmoniously toward personal success. Multiple selves. In this perspective, the self describes an individual who often shows different facets of themselves depending on the context, relationships, or situations. Carl Jung's theory of analytical psychology provides a framework for understanding this perspective. Jung introduced the archetype, a pattern in which all things of the same type are representations such as the persona, which is the mask shown to the world, and the shadow, the hidden, darker side of the self. These archetypes represent different aspects of a person's identity. In addition, Jung noted that these selves emerge as responses to various unconscious and conscious forces, creating a dynamic and multifaceted personality. The individuation process, or integrating these various aspects into a cohesive self, is a lifelong journey.